So it snowed last night, and I'll just wait for it to warm up. No big deal. Wait, seriously? It's gonna be a high of 5, and that's the warmest it's gonna be while we have the new Elantra? All right, guys, time to bundle up. Hi everyone, I hope you're all a little bit warmer than I am. Today I'm bringing you the all-new redesigned 2021 Hyundai Elantra in this limited trim. And this redesigned compact sedan is loaded with technology typically seen in much higher priced vehicles. Today we'll dive into the edgy design, enjoy its upscale interior, point out the great and, well, not so great aspects, and give this new Elantra a good drive in the snow. Does this new Elantra have the driving dynamics to keep up with its cutting-edge technology? Let's find out. So whether you fancy this new Elantra's design or not, it's undeniably eye-catching, and for me as a kid of the 90s, all I can think about is the red Power Ranger. I don't know why. And like the redesigned Tucson, this has the Cascade style grille, although it's a little unique on this car. This being the limited trim, you get full LED headlights, low beams, high beams, as well as daytime running lights. The blinkers on the front and the rear are of course your standard run-of-the-mill blinkers, not LED. From the side, we have this unique, very Z-like cutout on the side panels. And it looks like the Red Ranger's T-Rex Zord came by and swiped this rear C-pillar, which is extremely interesting. The C-pillar, it makes the car look almost like a hatchback, but no, it's just your normal sedan. On this limited trim, you get 17-inch throwing star styled wheels and tires. I'm pretty sure there was a Red Ranger that was a Ninja as well. These Kumo Majesty Solus tires leave a little bit to be desired in this cold weather. Now the back of the Elantra is just as uniquely designed as the rest of it. Big Elantra letters on the back, kind of reminds you of a Porsche, right? Very aerodynamic trunk lid here. And then down here, we don't have any fake exhaust tips. In fact, the exhaust tip is completely hidden unless you get a little bit under the vehicle. So I'll take an overly styled rear bumper any day over fake exhaust tips. Inside the trunk, you get 14.2 cubic feet of space. Not too bad in a sedan. And the seats fold down with these levers, which gives you a 60-40 split here in the limited trim. This limited has leather trimmed seats. They're quite comfortable. They're very, very stylish. There's all sorts of patterns going on. I like it. On the doors and the back of the seats, we have this cool cloth-like texture as well as stitching inside. It's very nice. And the overall design of the interior is quite unique, and I like it a ton. Just like I enjoyed the Sonatas, at least the limited trim, the Sonata was excellent. I really like what Hyundai's doing with the interiors. What's interesting is on the driver's side, everything's accented with this gray, and then on the passenger side, even the door is in black. So we have a gray black dichotomy on the inside that is unique and really enjoyable. We have a strange oh crap bar in the middle because this car is a handling machine. The steering wheel is excellent, and I love how Hyundais allow you to just put your hand at the bottom of the steering wheel so you don't have to hold it on top or the sides. And the interaction with the stereo and the climate control is amazing. They have actual dials here. I'm not using touch-sensitive buttons to get lost around or get frustrated over. It is very simple and extraordinarily effective. Now on the limited trim, the thing that's going to stick out to most people is going to be the fully digital instrument cluster. It's 10 inches, so is the touchscreen for the infotainment. So it definitely feels like luxury level when it comes to the technology in here. There's a strange dial over here on the left-hand side that looks like it would be touch sensitive. I don't know what the design purpose of it is, so if you guys can help me out there, that would be great. Now in the back of the Elantra, you have a ton of space. This seat is set up for me. I'm 6'1", and I have tons of leg room back here, even with my snow pants on and my ridiculous setup. And like I mentioned earlier, I love how they add this cloth touch, not only to the doors, but to the rear seats. Yes, you have scratchy black plastic and one matte pocket over here, but what do you expect for a car that costs around 25 grand? No rear vents, no connectivity in the rear, which I don't really expect for this price point. And then the armrest folds down here in this limited and gives us a couple cup holders, not bad. Underneath the hood of this frozen 21 Elantra, we have a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 147 horsepower, 132 pound-feet of torque, mated to smart stream intelligent continuously variable transmission. It's like a mouthful. It's a CVT. It's just their fancy way of calling it something else. And on paper, 147 horsepower does seem a little bit on the low end, but you'll find out in a little bit, it actually makes this light car go pretty good. Now, there's quite a bit of room behind this engine. We know that there's an inline, which is a 1.6 liter turbo based off this car. And there's also an Elantra N, a full-blown sports car based off the Elantra, and that's going to have a 2.5 liter turbo with around 300 horsepower. Holy cow, let's have some fun in that car. All right guys, time for the highlights and lowlights, and there are quite a few highlights in the interior of this car anyways. There's a vanity switch underneath here for the light, and you don't see that a whole lot. Usually it's tied to just opening it and closing it. If you keep this open on most cars, the light will stay on. The cool thing is, since it's switch, once you flip it up, the light turns off. When it comes to the lights, selecting them is like any other car, you know, you turn the dial, but what's awesome is that it actually shows you what you're selecting on the digital MID behind the steering wheel. And speaking of that digital instrument cluster, it is customizable. When I got in here, it was a bunch of prisms. I didn't like it. It was way too Minecrafty for me, so I just switched it back to some traditional digital analog gauges, if that makes sense. Now, like the Acuras I was in the past couple of weeks, this has a customizable ambient lighting as well. There's 64 different options. Actually, there might be more because you can kind of customize the individual color with a color wheel. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I love the shifter in here. It is a dying art nowadays to have a nice shifter. It's quality. It's not loosey-goosey at all. I like the gray material on it. And even though it's a CVT, I do like having the shifter in here. And it works when you want to put it into manual mode. It's actually pretty effective there. And the last highlight inside here, not only do we have dual climate control, but we have triple auto climate control. So depending on how loud you want the fans, you can just cycle through the auto button. I love that on the Sonata, and of course it's more than welcome here on the Elantra. Forgot a major highlight in this sort of climate. The key fob in this limited trim has an automatic start button on it. Let's focus. Worth its weight in gold and then some in this ridiculous climate. Time for the lowlights. I had to dig a little bit for this because I do enjoy this interior so much, but there are some things that are definitely negative. So there's wireless Android Auto and wireless Apple CarPlay, but not on this limited trim. You have to step down to the SE or the SEL, and you can probably get it on the inline as well. For some reason, with this larger touchscreen, you don't get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and there's also no USB-C connection. So I brought my USB-C cord just like I did with the Acuras last week. It's dual USB-C on each side. Well, guess what? I had to have the A to connect to the C. And since we're on the topic of Android Auto, just like the Sonata, I couldn't find a way to make it full screen. There's an option to be able to make it split screen in the menus, but all that does is allow you to see the radio or the clock on the right-hand side of the screen. But when you turn that option off, there's nothing you can do to make it full screen. And while the customizable LEDs are really cool, it can clash with the standard LED lit buttons in here at nighttime. They're kind of like a glacial glow of a blue, which is really cool. Now there are colors that match it, but I typically are just going to stick with matching the colors I can't change, which is this glowy blue color that we see on the climate control and the gear selector. But like I said, the interior on this new Elantra is really, really nice. And the rest of the lowlights you will see in the driving impressions. It's good rear cross traffic alert warning there. Time for some driving impressions in the snow. I tested this just a little bit yesterday, and guys, it was not very pretty to be to be honest. So we'll test it a little bit in the neighborhood, then of course we'll get on the highways, which will be clear. But you guys deserve to know how this handles in such terrible conditions, since that's really all I have to work with right now. We're going to try to head up this hill here. And yeah, I got low tire pressure warnings because it says it's 9 degrees, but I don't think it's 9 degrees. So just trying to accelerate just a tiny bit going up this hill. I already had some wheel spin. These are Kumo Majesty Solara or something tires. They're not very high quality. Now, I don't expect them to be incredible, to be honest, for a lower priced vehicle. But we're gonna test them to see if we can get up this hill. Now, keep in mind, this is packed snow. I'm just gonna gently roll into the gas. We're spinning already, and I can't really go any slower than this. So, would snow tires make a massive difference? Absolutely. But out of the factory, this car is not going to be very good in the snow. And in fact, I don't want to drive it a whole lot more on the, the snow streets because I don't want to get stuck or slide into another car. All right, we'll do one more big hill here before we head out into a little bit better streets. But yeah, I'm just gonna make sure I keep my momentum here because if I stop, I don't know if I would make it to the top of this hill. Yeah, it did it okay. If you don't try to accelerate up a hill, or if you try to stop on a hill and try to go, it's not gonna do it very well. And braking test going down this hill, I'm a little worried about, so I'm gonna take it extra slow. Slam on the brakes, let's see what happens. That might be the loudest ABS system I've ever heard. It sounded like a machine gun going off, you guys. I'm sure you heard that. All right, but seriously, let's get out of the snow. That's not this car's forte. Let's get on some normal streets and test what it's capable of and just what it's like to live with on normal driving conditions. Please stop, please stop, please stop. Man, I kind of wish I was in that 4Runner right now. Tons of wheel spin. Hopefully I can get to the streets for you guys. Oh man. And hearing the snow flick up into like the wheel wells is kind of indicative of the loudness of this car. It's not very well sound insulated, if at all. You hear everything from the road, you feel everything from the road. It's definitely worse than what the Sonata was, and the Sonata wasn't very good, but that car costs a lot more to begin with. So if you have less than ideal streets or driving conditions that you have to live with, definitely take this car on a test drive to see if this will be suitable for you. I like to drive in the quiet. This car might not be tailored for people in general who like to drive in the quiet. You know, the Bose sound system, it sounds really nice, and maybe most people who are driving this car are usually gonna have the radio up. That's probably the average person. I like to drive in silence most of the times or just listen to podcasts. You can call me a boomer at this point. Some people don't know what that term is, and I get called boomer on my channel. I'm 32, guys. I'm not a boomer. Oh, skidding across the road a little bit. Oh, geez, these tires, no bueno. Wet streets, that's the best I can do today. What is it like on this smooth piece of road right now? Well, I can hear the slush and the water flying up into the wheel wells. So again, not a quiet car, and I'm gonna stop talking about how this car is loud and how the suspension's not good because it's really not very good. I'll leave it there. What about the transmission? Well, it's a CVT. Most CVTs, in my experience, are not very enjoyable to drive. This one, it's okay. From a stop, it's very, very lethargic. No one's behind me, so I'm gonna go to a stop here. From a stop, this is very lethargic. I'm just gonna get into it a little bit. It wants you to really press the gas pedal down to get going anywhere. Now, once you're up to speed, it's actually pretty responsive. I'm gonna hammer it going up this hill. Go. You know, it's buzzy, it's kind of gross sounding, but it was responsive and it did what I wanted it to do. And I really don't have an issue with the engine either. I know it's only 147 horsepower or so. It's not gonna break any records, but the trade-off is fuel economy. In ideal situations, you probably could be getting around 35 miles per gallon. If you can deal with the lethargic acceleration from a stop, the rest of the vehicle, once you're up to speed, it's actually not too bad. If not enjoyable. Now, like I said, even though it's a CVT, it does have driving modes. I can turn it into sport mode, or it automatically goes to sport mode if I flip the great shifter to the left, and it will act like a manual selected transmission, and it's actually pretty good. All right, Lexus, come on. I'm gonna test it out. Here we go. Oh, lots of wheel spin. Oh man, this Lexus 250. The IS 250 is letting us down, guys. It doesn't have much horsepower than this car, so what do you expect? All right, manual mode, activate. And it holds onto the revs in sport mode, and I can just downshift if I want here. I'm in second gear right now. Downshift, and the engine braking's really strong, so yes, is it a bit buzzy? And no, I'm not going to push this car very hard around the turns here because I don't want to fly off the side of the on-ramp because these tires are not very good in less than ideal situations. But yeah, let's accelerate here on the interstate. Oh gosh, let's not accelerate onto the interstate. Brakes are good. Blind spot monitor worked excellent there, and that's what it's for. I'm glad I'm not that guy on the side of the road. Here we go, back to testing the manual transmission. For 147 horsepower, guys, it's actually kind of fun to drive once you're up to speed and you can play around with the gears. That's not something I was expecting from a CVT and a 4-cylinder with 147 horsepower. Now I'm up to about 65 right now. It's loud, and that's kind of what you expect. You hear everything in the road. I feel like I'm having to yell, which hopefully you guys aren't getting your ears blown out by me yelling, but it's very loud in here. That's definitely one of the things you'll have to consider. Maybe it's not a big deal to you if noise doesn't bother you in a car, but definitely consider it. That's one of the biggest attractions in this car, is how loud it is at all speeds. As you guys know, the traction isn't 100% right now, but I am gonna test the brakes, kind of give you my impressions on the brakes here. And press, I actually like the brakes. There is a good bit of travel there, and that's okay with me because it keeps biting the more it travels. Some cars it doesn't do that. So I actually like the brakes. They're not gonna blow any minds, but in terms of getting the job done, these brakes are just fine. All right, let's get up this hill. We can do it, guys. We can do it. Come on, come on, come on, Elantra. Come on. Push, push, push. We did it. We climbed the biggest hill in Omaha there. It probably isn't, but we climbed it. And the Elantra, another check mark for credibility. So final thoughts on the 2021 Elantra. Interesting looks. They're definitely going to catch some eyes if you're okay with Power Rangers, at least in my book. The interior is expertly crafted. Fit and finish is great. Materials are great. The comfort is excellent. The usability is great. I could go on and on about the modern Hyundai interiors. This Elantra is no exception. Driving dynamics. Well, it's kind of a entry-level car. You know, this starts around 20K. This particular model around 26K in the limited trim. I don't mind the engine. I don't mind the transmission for this price point. It is a little bit loud to me. That's one of the detractors, but you got to keep in mind what you're getting for the car, for the money. It's edging on luxury in terms of safety features and infotainment and just overall technology. But overall, guys, I am impressed with this new Elantra, especially if you can get it in this limited trim with this really nice interior, and the dual 10-inch screens is a really, really nice feature. Guys, I'll leave it there. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in the comments below. If you made this far in the video, smash the like button. Subscribe if you enjoy my impressions and reviews, as well as news on Korean and Japanese cars. And guys, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Peace out.